Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.
Welcome to the most spectacular show in sub-Saharan Africa, the Great Debaters Contest. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyambok. Our motion today is cashless transactions will be the greatest step towards ending corruption. Kianyaga High and Kahuhia girls will be the victor.
We'll leave the debate gurus to do their job. Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes.
From the Kianyaga High School, I'm Andrew Munane. Here, agreeing with the motion, cashless transactions will be the greatest step towards ending corruption. Corruption can be defined as the misuse of private or public office for personal gain. It is a vice that has manifested itself in various ways, including fraud, bribery, extortion, and even embezzlement. Cashless policy, on the other hand, simply put, refers to exactly that. No papers, no coins, whereby everything is electronic. Payments and transactions go digital, thus rendering the use of hard currency a thing of the past. Various forms of cashless policy include M-Pesa, credit and debit cards. Now, the use of cash has been causing corruption. For instance, Nigeria. It is a country that has been described as a rich nation floating on oil well, but almost none of it runs to the people. This could be attributed to a few corrupt bureaucratic hands who selfishly decide to pocket the money. Since the government adopted the cashless policy in the system, there has been realized a close to 50% increase in the internally generated revenue. Now, for those of us who are Christians here, we do pray to the Lord. Lord, lead us not in temptation, deliver us from evil. Cashless policy will be the thing that takes away the temptation to engage in the evil of corruption. A case study in the Philippines has shown that the highest financial risk is the high volume of corruption in government agencies. This will tempt even the most honest employees to engage in corruption. Thus, I strongly propose that the use of cashless transaction is the ideal way to curb corruption. Oh, would it be sweet if the society was healed of this disease that has been slowly sucking out the life out of society? Thank you.
Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes. Cash causing corruption? No, cash is not the problem. The problem is that we lack strict legislation in Kenya and particularly in Africa. Now, I am Joanne Otiere opposing the motion that says cashless transaction will be the greatest step towards ending corruption. Now, ladies and gentlemen, corruption is one of the greatest hurdles we have in Africa today. Now, in the likes of bribery, rip-offs, backroom deals, and other forms of corruption that not only steal resources from a common man, but also undermine justice, economic growth, and also destroy the governance of a nation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I had said earlier that cashless transaction is not the problem. The problem is that we lack proper legislation. According to Wikipedia, in South Korea, the main punishment of corruption is by hanging. Now, how many cases have you had in Africa? Or rather, how many cases have you had in Kenya? And how many cases have been dealt with in Kenya? Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is to be said in whispers. Just the other day, the President of Kenya, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, submitted 5 cabinet secretaries, 12 governors, and 3 principal secretaries to be investigated against corruption against 175 state officials. And after a while, it was again announced by the public media that the cases have been suspended, or some of the cases have been suspended. Why? Corruption. Now, again, some of the causes in Kenya are still pending under judgment and prosecution. We have the case of Goldenberg, which started in 1991. The case of Anglo-Leasing, which started in 1997. Up to date, no judgment. Again, cashless transaction only favors the literate. What of the illiterate in the villages? What of the illiterate in towns again? What of the poor? What of the marginalized communities? They need to have cashless transactions. They need to get those cards, and it's going to be very difficult again. And then, we are talking about cashless transaction as a way of solving corruption. Let us understand that it only favors the elite like me and you. Let's not be selfish, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Time now for rebuttals. Proposition, you have 3 minutes.
Noel Wanzala from the Kianyaga High School proposing the motion, cashless transactions will be the greatest step towards ending corruption. The government implementation of cashless payment of fares in matatus is actually celebrated by their owners. George Wanyama, manager of the company piloting cashless system, recently had a research, and this was the result. In just 2 months, 30% of the revenue was collected. If we embrace this system into our society, we will be able to add profits into our businesses. After the government of Nairobi realized that their proud employees among themselves, they did this. They installed the cashless system, and in 4 months, they were able to raise 40% of the profits. Just because of this system, we are going to develop this country and this continent economically and also socially. Sheria ni msumeno, kukata mbele na nyuma. That's a Swahili proverb. And it really means that when we embrace this system, it will be able to curb all forms of corruption. Just imagine waking up in the morning and realizing that in this society, there is no corruption anymore. At this point, I rest my case. But remember, decisions have consequences. If we make the right decision of implementing this system, we will be able to develop both economically and socially. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to give your rebuttal. If you have any power of intention, you will join me, Wanjiku Gitau, in opposing this motion that says cashless transactions will be the greatest step towards ending corruption. Now, my opponent says that cashless transaction is being used to pay bus fare. If we decide to become a cashless society, we will only bring about unemployment. Talk about the teller at the bank. Talk about the tax collector. Talk about the people who transport the money from one place to the other. All these people will be rendered jobless. And you will agree with me that most of these people are the youth. With the youth being unemployed, the dependency ratio was high. And currently, we are trying to fight against dependency ratio being very high. Therefore, open a Pandora's box. Will someone tell me how cashless transactions will curb other forms of corruption, such as unfair promotions? Will someone tell me how cashless transactions will curb chronism? This is whereby people in authority give work to their families and to their friends. Now, with cashless transactions, you tell me that we will end chronism, because what cashless transaction does, whatever transaction that takes place, it is only computerized. We do not govern what people do. And will someone tell me also how we will curb the cliche that Kenyans have, that scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. Now, how will cashless transaction end this? It is ironical that you're trying to say cashless transaction is the way to go, and yet you have mobile phones and we have cash in our pockets. Do you know why? Because money gratifies, or as Kenyans put it, pesa ni sabuni ya roho. With cash in my hand, I can be able to count. This is 500. This is 200. I can be able to tell that today I was able to make something. I can feel my hard work. I can feel proud of myself because of what I have. But with the card, I'm only told there's value in it. I cannot understand. I cannot see it. And trust me, I'm one of those people who believe seeing is believing. Thank you.
I love Safaricom, I love M-Pesa, kwa kurahisisha kazi zetu. Safaricom, my love, M-Pesa, my love, thank you so much, you're the apple of my eye.
Take part in the M Challenge by sending your short song, rap or poem about Safaricom M-Pesa on WhatsApp, and you could win 1,000 shillings in Safaricom airtime.
The audience has challenged the debaters on stage with a few questions. The proposers have been asked to elaborate on how cashless transactions would curb corruption, yet the most corrupt are the high and mighty of society. And the opposers have been asked to elaborate on what other methods can be used to curb corruption, if not using cashless transactions. We'll leave them to respond to the questions. Proposal number 3, you have 3 minutes.
I'm Mustad Ali from the Kianyaga High School, strongly proposing the motion that states that cashless transaction is the greatest step towards ending corruption. And let me start by correcting my opponent. And she talked about that how many students came to these sessions with a cashless payment system. I would like to tell her that we are in a new world. The olden days have gone. We are not in the 1960s. We are in a new day. Well, how can cashless system protect those people in high degrees like the politicians? I would like to tell you that whatever you have just said, there are 3 modes of corruption. You have the grand, systematic, and the petty. And we can't, if a person today comes to a supermarket with a cashless system, there are records. The records will enable this person to know the transactions that have been taking place, and at all, this will enhance and will enable people to reduce corruption in society. Well, cashless transactions ensures and leaves a clear record. If cashless transactions today is used in the borders during immigration and immigration, there will be a clear and solid evidence that there is no cases of corruption, and therefore, when we get the solid evidence of all the transactions that have been taking place, I'm telling you, my friends, the society will have nothing. Corruption thrives in low-risk protection places, whereby innovation technology solutions such as electronic governance and cashless policy will make governance very transparent. Well, a good example, we have the matatu industry. The matatu industry is among the industry that is facing challenges from corruption. A good example that a driver is being given a bail, but that's money he has given for the bail and has been told to come on the court on a certain date. The money ends up in the pocket of the policeman. And how can we do? Introducing the cashless system will enable, and in fact it's a disadvantage to this policeman who is in touch with this driver, day in, day out taking money. And therefore, we should notice that cashless transaction formalizes informal transactions. And because this process is transparent, it should enable reduce cases of corruption and to reduce room for tax evasion and underworld. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to respond to the audience.
From the opposing side, ladies and gentlemen, I am Jane Wanjiru. I'm finding a lot of things here interesting. First of all, before I even tell you what I'm finding interesting, to the first question, the one who asked it, you can remove your shoes, relax your feet, because by the end of what I'm saying, you'll have gotten your response. And you'll have a reason to go and withdraw all your money and put it in the pocket, because cash is not the cause of corruption. Now, really, that we are in a new world. And we've just seen from even the little population that we have here, that nobody used cashless fare to pay this morning for transport. But we are in a new world. Anyway. Now, so that we can stop caging ourselves in this one point of cashless transactions, I have alternatives. Why don't we give our workers better salaries? It is low salaries that will see our clerks, office workers being a demotivated lot. And from the demotivation, they give delayed services. And anywhere that there is delay in services, my dear audience, that area is prone to corruption. I would prefer that we reduce the workload for our workers. Then, by increasing the number of workers, we hasten the delivery of our services. And again, we reduce delay. And anywhere that there's no delay, like I said earlier, no corruption. My wonderful audience, we can install CCTVs. It was just last year I was watching a clip from a Ugandan lady in Uganda who was well-tracked molesting a kid. And I thought to myself, oh wow, what a nice way of tracking bad people who think they're not being seen. I'm in love with the private sector. It has good working ethics. I'm talking of things like the performance contract. These are things that see fair job promotion, fair salary earning, and if we can borrow a leave, and I'm glad that our president has started doing this. He has started poaching people from the private sector to govern in our public sector. Well, the current head of the presidential delivery services, Mr. Mwaita, was poached from the Safaricom, a company that is doing so good. Now, ladies and gentlemen, is it so hard to adopt a responsible media? A media that is beyond reproach. A media that is going to exercise its core duty of oversight. A media that is going to expose all the corrupt cases. Is it so difficult? It is an option that you can go for. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it is not cash that is the issue. Cashless? No. Cash? Yes. Thank you.
Okay, we'll have final submissions now, beginning with the proposers. You have 1 minute.
The former President of the United States, J.F. Kennedy, said, and I quote, "Change is a law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future." So, fellow patriots, the future is cashless transaction system. The future is the e-ticketing that is being used in matatus. The future is the process that is normally used in bank to bank. Now, what I would like to urge you guys is that come out from the shop and let us head on to the oceans. Thank you.
Opposition, you also have 1 minute for your final submission.
I am a staunch Christian. I believe in the good book, the Bible. And according to that good book, in Revelation chapter 13, shalt not buy, thou shalt not sell without the sign of the beast. I hate suffering from consequences that I have already been warned. And the cashless transaction is synonymous to the sign of the beast. The numerous numbers, serial number, identification number, your phone number, it is very evident. According to the same good book again, in Revelation 14 verse 9, it says that, "Woe unto thee whom the prophecy shall come to pass. For he or she shall suffer in the wrath of God and burn in the hands of men." I do not want to be Judas and betray my fellow Christians, the 487,540,000 Christians in the world. I am not Judas. Thank you.
Kianyaga, Andrew, you had good points but you staggered along the way, and I felt like you vanished from the stage. You did not even utilize your time well. Noel, one comment, good attempt. Ali, first thing, you didn't even answer the questions. Your role as that speaker, and I think role playing has not been coming out well, especially for you as a team as well. I'll just say fair trial.
For Kahuhia girls, the problem with your submissions is that you make submissions but you do not provide solutions. For example, when you say the problem is not the cash, the problem is because of lack of proper legislation, lack of penalties, then what are you suggesting with regards to legislation, with regards to the kind of penalties that you're saying? You also do not show us how using cash can actually stop corruption. Because it's about corruption, it's not about what's convenient, it's about, cashless transactions being the greatest step towards ending corruption or not ending corruption. And that connection was missing in your submissions.
The judges awarded Kianyaga Boys High School with 60%. Please give them a round of applause. Kahuhia Girls, the judges awarded you 64. You are our winners for the debate.
We thank both teams for the good work on stage. Of course, our gratitude also goes out to Safaricom, M-Pesa, and to KBC Channel 1, and most importantly, you, the viewer, for staying with us. From all of us here at the Great Debaters Contest, it's goodbye till next time. I have been your host, Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Yambok. Catch you next time.
The Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.